understand.
I welcome you guys to this session, which says the agile way of testing. Combinatorial testing is one small part of it. Okay. It doesn't mean that combinatorial testing is agile testing. CT was maybe even before algorithmic testing was even before maybe when people knew agility. Okay, but I'm just relating it. It's an agile way of testing because it reduces a lot of your effort. It has certain mechanism to do it, and yeah, it also helps testers as well as developers. So altogether, people can do it. So developer as well as tester. If developer does it, it saves a lot of cost, money, and effort for the company as well as testers. It reduces. It actually works into the complex systems. So if it's a very easy system, it's a small system, you may not even go for it. Okay, and that's why I call it is agile ways of testing. Anyone here in this room already knows about algorithmic testing or combinatorial testing or something like that? Like, from you guys? No, if not, then what ways of testing that you are doing, especially for reducing your testing efforts or making it more agile, helping your organization, helping your customer, helping your product? What ways you are implementing?
Basically TDD and BDD. So
okay.
BDD, we are using Cucumber kind of tools.
Yes.
Where, yeah, we can able to automate and we can able to provide the requirements, and even the functional guys no need to know the coding point of view, but they can able to give that information, what is the requirement scenarios, and then technical people can able to write the program, and we are using that. So it's an improved way of doing development and testing together.
Awesome. Yeah. Very good. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Vijay, for that.
Okay.
Excuse my that for BDD, your team, not just the QA guys, not just the testers, but the entire team,
yes,
must have what we say agile maturity. Because BDD largely depends on the team being able to understand the behavior of the product, whatever, whether it's portal or website or whatever it is. The behavior of that, what we in our language we say, functionality. No, you have to understand the behavior of that functionality and how your user or visitor is interacting with that functionality, because that is what defines the behavior of that functionality. So unless we understand that, we can't do BDD. And to understand that, this is I'm talking from my experience. So people here are more experienced than me, but to understand that, I think you must have very, very well experienced people. Be that developers, be that QA guys, be that test. So we are going back to user research.
Yeah.
So if your user research has been very, very in-depth, very, very deep, and therefore the functionality you have made is according to that user research, and therefore it meets the behavior what you are expecting the user to experience, and then we can talk about BDD. Otherwise it's TDD.
For behavior driven also, you said one point, experience is really required. Apart from that, also that thinking, getting into the shoes of customer, that trait itself.
Yeah.
I remember those days when I was actually doing discovery for Halifax Bank. You are aware of it.
Yeah.
Sid. So yeah, I remember those days, and I remember connect it to BDD a little, not absolutely, but yeah. But yeah, Vijay, thank you so much for bringing in. Any other points, guys? Thanks, Sid, for explaining it. Yeah. Okay, so let's go into topic. So basically what combinatorial testing means. So testing you already know. So what is combinatorial? Combinatorial is by doing combinations. Okay, combinations of multiple use cases, test cases, variables, parameters, whatever you can do. It's just a combination. And I'm taking you back to your old days, NPR, NCR formulas. Do you remember NCR formula from mathematics, maybe engineering, combinations,
Yes,
permutations?
yes,
Yes.
yes. N factorial by n factorial into n minus r factorial.
Awesome. You're the winner of the day.
At least we should be knowing the basic stuff, right?
Yes, yes. And that's really basic for this topic. Yeah. So combinatorial testing. So what is combinatorial testing? A way to most effective, efficient, and cost-effective software testing. Okay. Where to implement this? I will not go into, this is my old slide. Okay. So no software is complete without these folks, right? You would agree to that. Bugs. No software is complete. Do you know any software which didn't have any defects yet? Probably Sid might be knowing because it's coming from the early times.
No, bugs were always there.
Yes.
We
Even in Hello World.
maybe we didn't openly say it, but bugs were
Yes.
always there.
Yes.
If
Definitely.
bugs were not there, we are not developed or met the expectation of the customer.
Seriously, I mean, it's the way you look at it sometimes. Sometimes bugs, you don't really look at it because without the bugs, whatever system is working, it's actually helping with your purpose. So in those cases, you don't really look at bugs. As Sid said, also Karupia said, there were bugs. We were not just looking at it. So without the bugs, there's no story that is actually complete. So this is the story about writing a software with reduction in bugs with certain system, and that system is called as combinatorial way of testing. So what is combinatorial way of testing? NIST is an organization in US, National Institutes of Standards and Technology, something like that. Okay. Studied the trends during 1999 to 2003, and that was published in a paper. Okay. So what it says, this particular study says 50 to 80% of the development budgets go towards testing. Okay. This was prior to India coming into picture of testing. If you actually know, India was earlier getting only testing projects. Majority of the design, architecture, development things were actually happening in United States or somewhere in Europe. But testing was supposed to be a very least important or no-brainer activity that was actually considered that time. And then later on, it started coming to India. So that's how they reduced the testing related budgets. Okay, that was one step. Estimated inadequate software testing costs to the US economy was 59 billions per year. Exhaustive testing all possible combinations of inputs and execution path is impossible for real world software. So high assurance software is tested using methods that require extensive staff time and thus have enormous cost. In the sense, if you want to make any of the software bugs free or in the tolerable limit of the customer, since it's a complex domain, complex software, multi-module, multi-component, sometimes I worked on the systems where there were, say, like few 100 million lines of code. Sid might have worked on even, or maybe working right now, or Vijay or anybody here, might be working on certain at least million plus lines of code, right?
Oh, yes, certainly.
So
If I might interrupt Vijay just for
yes, please.
1 minute.
Yeah.
What Vijay just said is absolutely correct. That in the good old days, what was outsourced to India was only testing. No brainer. I'm trying to bring the context. Okay, don't misunderstand me. If when we started this today's session, I briefly mentioned that I was a beta tester for Windows 3.11. Please listen very carefully. Windows 3.11. Most of you have never even heard of it. Windows 3.11. I was a beta tester. Windows 3.11, 23%, 23% of the code writers, the software engineers who wrote Windows 3.11 for Microsoft, 23% were Indians. Okay. Forget he has got a US passport or British passport or German passport or French. Forget that. But they were of Indian origins. Indian guys, 23%. By the time Windows XP happened, 86% of the code writers were Indians. From 23%, that proportion has gone to 86%. And in today's date, when we are talking about Windows 10 and Windows 11, 96% of the software engineers are Indians. Again, forget what passport they hold. Oh, he's a Britisher, he's a US citizen, he's a German citizen. Forget all that. He's of Indian culture, he's of Indian origins. Today, 96%. Now, of course, even the CEO is an Indian. But just to bring, just what I was to make a comment on, to bring in the context of what Vijay was saying, that yes, in the good old days, it was Indians are only good for testing. That is no longer the case. Today, Indians are the major players. They are the main guys who are developing all the most brilliant software in the world. Back to Vijay. Sorry for interruption.
But that's a good information to know. We don't know that much of it yet. Thanks, Sid. Okay, so, and for less critical software, budget constraints often limit the amount of testing. So many times, who needs testing? People generally need functionalities. It means it needs to be developed. Developed means the developer writing the code. As long as it works and gives a little bit of value, and it looks like it's working and giving value. If it's a low budget software, people definitely will have less amount of testers. I have seen 2:1 ratio, 3:1 ratio, sometimes 6:1 ratio. 6:1 in the sense 6 developers, 1 tester. 2:1, 2 developers, 1 tester. Because even today, the software industry do not want to focus too much on testing. And that's how agility came into picture. Agility says that testing is really, really important. Cost, quality is an angle. So how do we bring in that into being? Yeah. So let's go into it. So key insights underline. Not every parameter contributes to every failure. So for an example, I'm sorry. This is okay. Just a moment. Okay. So there was a study done on different devices, browsers, servers, NASA distributed databases. So how actually defects are happening? So if defect comes in, what all areas it actually comes from. So it was tested, checked, and statistically proven and put onto one paper. So if you see here, the y-axis tells you the cumulative percentage of defects that is occurring or that is captured. And on the x-axis, if you see, these are the number of parameters of any of the software. Parameters, you can call it as variables. Okay, so there are numerous variables. For an example, if you are using a keyboard, a key can contribute to various text or digits or symbols. One key, if you press just one key, that can contribute to different variables, parameters, kind of, Similarly, in softwares, one variable can have multiple parameters. For an example, if I say font, in your Microsoft Word, font has various parameters. Font is one variable, various parameters. What the parameters is font size. How much font size it can be? Right from 0.1, 200, various parameters. Font size. Similarly, for a variable of font color, it might have numerous parameters to it. So these are the variables and parameters. So variable is font size, variable is font color, parameters are assigned value to it. Now, what I'm speaking of here is variables. I'm calling variables as the parameters here. So don't get confused. So what I'm saying here is, if you are a tester and you take one parameter or one variable parameter at a time, if you just want to test one, for an example, font size. So font size, if you want to test on your screen, you say 5 and you measure it. Oh, it looks like 5. And if you say 7 and it looks like 7, it got increased. So that is one way of testing. You're just increasing font size. And that's how the font size is increasing and your tester is saying, yes, this is working as the way it was intended behavior. However, what happens if you test only one parameter at a time? Then what happens in the case of NASA distributed database? This is a thick line. If you just test one parameter at a time, if you test tests and you test all the parameters, millions of parameter options that you have got, you will be only 70% good. So the cumulative amount of defects that you have captured would roughly be around 70% only. And your software would be 30% with defects. Okay. If you go to server-based system, if you see this is the server-based system, in that case, if you just test one parameter at a time, all the parameters you test, possible combination or possible parameters, values, then at this exhaustive testing, only 43% of the testing defects are captured, remaining 57% are still there in the system. So what does it tell? If you test only one parameter at a time, the amount of defects that you're passing to user is humongous. Okay. Now go to second interaction, two interactions. What does it mean? You are testing, say, font size, say any font size, you take one parameter, and font color. So there are two parameters or two variables that you are testing. Say font size of 7 and color blue, then this is there are two interactions of two variables. If you do that kind of testing, what would happen? Your effectiveness goes up, in the sense the amount of defects that you're passing on to user with two-way testing, it reduces the chances. So if you go here, say medical devices, just with two-level parameters, you are roughly getting into the zone of 96, 95%. It means only 5% of the defects you would pass on to user if you do two-way testing. That is what I'm calling as two-way testing, two variables at the same time. Now, if you do three-way testing, in the sense three variables at the same time. In the sense, you do combinations of it. Combinations. Three variables you set at a time, and then you test your system. This way, you will achieve more perfection. If you see here, roughly medical devices are achieving somewhere around 98%. And if you do 4-way testing and 5-way testing and 6-way testing, if you actually see 6-way testing, 6 interactions at the same time, what happens? You are near to the perfection. That all the defects are almost taken care in all the systems. Any questions?
Vijay, is it somewhat related to 80-20 Pareto analysis?
80-20 what? Pareto analysis?
Yeah.
No. Maybe you can say that, yes, definitely. But it is about the interactions.
Because
it is about
as
the
you said,
interactions.
this interactions has a number of items of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which you say. These are the number of items which is inducing you to impact.
Yeah. Similarly, you can actually put it. Yeah, Karupia, you can say that. Say, for an example, if you have 1,000 parameters in your Excel, there might be 1,000 parameters. So what this system tells you, or statistics tells you, you need not have all the 1,000 parameters testing done at the same time. Okay. Even if you do about
You're
maximum
right. The same
6
thing
parameters at once.
correlates with what I'm saying. You may not focus on all the items, but at the most, which is the burning, if you attack those items, definitely you could succeed in proceeding further. You're right.
Yeah, no, but there is a little bit of variation here. What I'm saying is you need to test all the 10,000 variables. Okay, but if you do it one by one, then what would happen? The system would be more defect prone, even though you test all the parameters. Okay, but one by one. But if you do in pairs, 2 variables, 2 parameters at the same time, there might be so many combinations. Okay, but what would happen since you are testing 2 things together? There are more chances that you will discover more defects, and it is proven statistically. If you do it three parameters at the same time, more and more defects are uncovered. Yeah, but if you do it 6 parameters at the same time, it is actually reaching kind of perfection. So does that mean you need not test remaining variables? You need to test it. But what I'm saying here is 6 parameters combinations you should test, like font color, font size, italics. That's a 3rd parameter.
But Vijay, is that in current practice? Are people following it by combination testing of?
Oh yes, because combination saves you a lot of time.
Right, but that is true. I understand. But how effective it has been getting practiced by industry now?
Yeah. So some of the projects and some of the ways of softwares that is already getting implemented. So if you actually see, NIST has created based on, there are 4 algorithms that were devised based on this. So I will tell you where it is actually used also. So I'll just come to that. Okay. So guys, what is the bottom line I'm telling you is, in place of doing 1 parameter testing at the same time, you should actually do it in pair. It is better. If you do it 3 parameters together in 1 test case, it is even better. If you do it 4, it is even better. The chances of uncovering defects increases with every parameter coming into picture. But if you do it 6, that is more than enough. If you go beyond that, that would be an overkill. Okay. This is what is, these are the numbers I'm telling you here. This is browser based. So with browser based, like your websites, if you do 3-way combinations, you are reaching 95% of the coverage, I would say. Yeah, 97 and 100% of. So let's clear out understanding. For an example, permutations and combinations. What is a permutation? And what is a combination?
Usually, Vijay, when we have more test cases, correct, or more parameters, what we do, we create a matrix. It will be 2-dimension or 3-dimension.
Yes.
So then what we do is we try to cover as much as possible with less number of test cases. It is not about reducing test cases where we combine the dimensions, parameters, variables, and it took some time to frame that. Once we frame it, we can save time in the execution.
Definitely. So that some way you can call it as multitasking. So for testing, what this statistic is telling you is multitasking is better. But this is an exception. Don't take it everywhere, guys. Multitasking is better here. Okay. So what is a permutation? If there are two people, they're standing in a queue, how many permutations can happen and how many combinations can happen? If say A and B, they are standing in a queue, how many permutations can happen?
Two.
A standing ahead, B standing behind, or B standing ahead, A standing behind. Yeah, 2 permutations. But how many combinations? There's only one. In combination A and B. Yeah, you're right. Shreya, it was Shreya, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
because
yeah. Okay.
here in permutation, the order matters, and in combination, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So that I want to clear it out. Order does not match here. It is just the combination of the parameters that is important here. Okay. So that's a prerequisite that needs to be understood. Okay. Now I would call something as strength, this T factor, strength. So what is strength? Strength is the number of parameters you are taking together or testing together in one test case. Okay. So if I say strength or T, it is the number of parameters. It's the combination, not the permutation, the combination of the parameters. Okay. So if you're saying A and B, then strength is 2 parameters together. If I say A, B, and C we are testing together, then strength is 3. That is T value is 3. Okay. So that's a 3-way testing, you can also call it as. Okay. So for an example, I'm giving you here A, B, C. These are the binary values. If I say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the binary values you can actually convert it to, right? So 0 is equal to 0, 0, 0, 3 bits. 1 is equal to 0, 0, 1, that is 1. 2 is 0, 1, because this binary system, it has the 2 as a value. Okay, then 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and something like that. I hope you already got it into your computer education and also in binary systems. Okay, so 7 is 1, 1, 1 at all 3 levels. Okay, I would not go into hexadecimal system and all. Simplest system I have actually taken here. Okay, so how you can do the best testing, guys? The best testing you can do is how many combinations or how many test cases that you will have to write here if you want to do all the test cases. 7. At least 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. At least 8. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. If you actually see it here, for 0, 1 test case, for 1, 1 test case. So all 7 test cases. These are the different. But if you actually see, these are the permutations. These are not the combinations. Okay. Now, if I remove the duplications or the permutations, these are the basic combinations I generally get. Permutation plus combination, but values. But if I actually take only 2 parameters at a time, if you see 0, 0 is one combination, 0, 1 is one combination, 1, 0 is one combination, 1, 1 is one combination. You will also say these are the permutations in a given situation. But if you see A as a value, if A takes 0, B takes 0, A takes 0, B takes 1, A takes 1, B takes 0, A takes 1, B takes 1. So these are the different combinations that are happening. If you actually see, if you just take B and C, then also if you see, these are the same combinations that will occur. If you actually see only A and C, these combinations will occur. Okay, so there are 4 combinations, 4 different combinations occurring again and again. So this is a very basic study that we need to understand. So what is combinatorial testing? So combination of configuration parameter values, okay, and combination of input parameter values. So what is the difference? Configuration parameters. How would you configure a system? There are configuration parameters and combination parameters. So if you actually do a combinations of, there are 3 different variables and each variable can take 4 values, then you will have to write 81 test cases in normal if you want to do exhaustive testing, NCR. But using orthogonal arrays, there is one way of testing. It will just take 9 test cases are needed for full coverage. Okay, I'm not going into algorithms or mathematics, guys, because though we are engineers, many people hate maths, and the number goes around somewhere around 95%. Okay, so these are different combinations. So I will come down to a software example, NCR. Okay, so orthogonal way of testing. Say for an example, this is the actual system configuration I'm giving you. If software is being tested on certain operating systems, so Windows 2003, Windows 2008, 32-bit to XP, these are the systems that you need to test upon. If there is a brand of software or hardware that you need to test across, if there are different products that you need to test across, so how many combinations that would happen? There would be different combinations, but how can you reduce these combinations or number of test cases? By covering arrays. I will not even go into covering arrays. Okay, it would need so much of time. Okay, so there is a way of orthogonal arrays which reduces duplication. Okay, that's it. I'm not going in too deeper right now. Otherwise, I could take a 2-day session for this. Android example. Parameter name, hard keyboard hidden. Android example. How many values it can take? Keyboard, either no, either hidden, either undefined, or yes. 3 values. Keyboard hidden, 3 values. Keyboard, 4 values. So there are various variables having possible options or parameters. So hard keyboard hidden as a variable in your software that you have written, it has 3 possible values, means 3 number of values. Similarly, if you do exhaustive testing of this, what would happen? How many combinations would happen? 1,72,800 test cases you will have to write for all those combinations. Okay, so if one test case is equal to say 15 minutes, is a hypothetical example. How many years you will have to take to test this Android example? Man years, 23.89 man years. Hypothetical example, don't go verbatim. Okay, so how do we do exhaustive test cases? With this covering array, if you do all the test cases, 1,72,800, it would need 24 years to test, but which is not possible for you. You want to reduce, if you do 6-way testing, 6 parameters at the same time, it would be only 9168 or 9286 maximum test cases that you will have to write. But it will do almost 100% test cases or test coverage. So with minimal test cases, 6-way combination, only 5.31% of the total exhaustive test set. It will take about 1 year. If you do 5-way, similarly, 4-way, 3-way, 2-way. If you do 2-way test cases, what will happen? It will take about 1.23 days for these many test cases. So in order to do 100% exhaustive test cases and being assured 100% that there are no defects, you need to write only 29 or 34 test cases. Why 29 and 34? There are different covering arrays and algorithms that are written. Okay, I would not speak too much of it. So with one of the algorithm, minimum test cases required is 29, and one of the algorithm, it gives 34 test cases. So this is how it reduces your effort and number of test cases. Now you would say, how would I do it? How would I do it? So researchers have already defined certain algorithms for it. Don't go on names. the really difficult names, IPOG, IPOG-D and all. So I have studied all this, but I'll not go in here. So there are 5 algorithms it uses. So with usage of these algorithms, you can actually do it with Excel sheets also. Okay. But if you do this way of testing, in the sense, only 2-parameter testing, it will reduce your efforts, test cases, and increase your coverage of tests. So what will it do? Automated test case generation. In the sense, I will tell you a tool which is devised by NIST, which is also used by NASA. Okay, which is also used by some of the Microsoft projects. In India, I was the one who was actually started this penetrating in Indian companies, along with one of the folk from Philips. So some of the companies and projects have already implemented for the complex projects, wherever there are multiple or thousands of variables. How to do exhaustive test cases, and reduce the defects. So what it does, this tool will give you automatic test case generation. It will save time in test case generation, because if you give just parameters, define it, click of a button, it devises test cases for you. So testers will save a lot of time. All the test cases in which you make sure there is 100% coverage. But 2-way will not give you definitely 100%. 6-way sometimes will give you, as I showed you that graph. Robustness of the product, since testing is really, really good, will also get to know our environment. If you have certain test cases or parameters, you can just write it down, or certain test cases which are already that you have defined, you can just pull in that data inside this tool called as ACTS, ACTS, and you can get the coverage. Oh, with those test cases that you have already written, this much is the coverage as on today, it will be told by that particular tool. Okay, so this is what it will do, this particular ACTS tool. I would give you a small demo now. Any questions here, guys? I have not gone into algorithms. I have not gone into typical covering arrays. What is the formula for it? Okay. I just told you, if you do combinatorial testing, what will it do for you? Any questions until now? I'll just go back. Are you following? Are you with me, guys? Karupia? Sid?
Vijay, you mentioned one tool, correct? You implemented in multiple corporates. What is the tool you said NASA was using?
The tool is called as ACTS, ACTS.
Okay.
Microsoft has also created one tool called as PICT, PICT, but it's a very costly tool. And there are various tools. I will also give you at the, I will also give you a link to certain tools like that. Actually, on critical products, we have used and we have been successful. The company I'm referring to is currently I'm working with, since so many years, and we have been developing some certain critical softwares, even for bullet trains or trains in Europe. Okay, and it has been giving a very good results to us. Okay, the tool is called ACTS tool. ACTS. Okay, so I'm using a GUI beta tool right now in front of you. So it was really tough time for me implementing it on a Apple system. It says we recommend the use of ACTS on Windows, and you will see it now. So it is ACTS tool. Okay, if you see on the UI, you can't see the options here. So what you have to do here, just go to the system, create a new system, define the number of variables, what kind of variable it is. I mean, the value of those parameters that you are giving. For an example, if you say that font size is 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the numerals. Okay, so then you will have to give digits or numerals. These are the options. Or for binary, if you are putting a text or hexadecimal, these are the options. The moment you define all the parameters here, you will just create a system. The moment you say create a system, you can save it by any name of your project, and you see create a system, it will actually create the number of test cases for you. For an example, if you are using 2-way, So you'll have to define what is the strength. If you see here strength, you will have to define T is equal to 2, two-way testing. Algorithm you will have to choose. I told you there are 5 algorithms that are being used. Don't put too much stress on it. Generally use IPOG. IPOG is very much sufficient for our way of typical softwares that we have been using. However, if you are going into NASA kind of, your research oriented and extraterrestrial objects and those things and precision comes into picture, then you might go into paintball or IPOG-D, but just IPOG is something that you can use. Now, how you can download it? So I will give you a link if you want. If you are interested, just ping me or reach me. I would give you a link, or I would also give the access to some of the folders that I have. Otherwise, I will also give you a connect of Mr. Raghu Kakad and those people. If you can actually reach them, they would also help you. Otherwise, there's a website of ACTS, NIST. Maybe you can open that site if you actually go here. NIST. Because of this tool issue, I'm not able to show you. So nist.gov, this is the website. Okay. And here you can, this is just a National Institute of Standards and Technology, US Department of Commerce. They actually work for US bodies. They define so many tools and algorithms. So this is one of the algorithms that is actually created by them. And they also created this called as ACTS, ACTS. I have been using 2.6 version. The latest that I had earlier was the beta version of it. Okay. And that saves a lot of time for some of the projects that I'm actually working with. We have been working on typically like Google Maps kind of system that we have been developing for the riders, which gives the intelligent data to a system, autonomous driving. We have been using it there. We have been using it on the bullet trains, the testing of it with multiple parameters, especially with so many controllers. So that have been really, really useful for us. So this tool is called as ACTS. Now I'll also give you a link here. If you go, there's a guy from Rice Consulting. Since I couldn't show you absolute demo, I'll just put a link here in this chat. You can actually see it on yourself. Okay, so I would like to try this demo. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see.
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear it? So this is what I was telling you. So once you are creating a system here, okay, say name any of your project. Under that, maybe you will define a variable. What kind of variable it is, Boolean or text, yeah. So operating system, yeah. You can also define a range. For an example, if you have don't have binary or typical numbers. For an example, if you're giving a range of certain, if you are creating a clock, one time we were actually creating a clock and angles that you need to define. So you can't test every angle. So we defined certain ranges then. So you can also give ranges here. Yeah. So if you see here, he is actually putting the values. These are the various values. And he has now put it into OS as a parameter name. It's an enumerator. And these are the parameter values. So many parameters it can actually, values it can take. So similarly, you will create this system like this. Browser. He is doing a basic level of demo here. So if you actually see here, yeah. So the strength, I told you 1-way, 2-way, 3-way, the maximum is 6. And now the new version is also mixed. And on the top, IPOG is the algorithm that is being used. Okay. So that's how, the moment you see, this has built a system here. So these are the combination of parameters you should test. So what a tester should do, no brainer. Now you have defined a system, operating system, take. First test case, operating system, iOS 6 selected. Okay, now next, iPhone, which phone? iPhone 5. Okay, selected. Now browser, which browser? Chrome. Fantastic. Done. Test it. So this is one test case for you. If you actually see similarly, you have maximum 20 test cases. With these 20 test cases, you have actually achieved almost 90% of coverage. So 90% of the defects you have actually taken care here itself in the given system. This is the simplest system I'm defining. But if you have hundreds of parameters, you can do multiple combinations and you need not do it. This system will do it for you. ACTS. Yeah. So this is how you do it. But I'm actually seeing it for the first time, guys. Since my system was not working, I took help of YouTube and I gone here and I just got it. So don't blame me if it is wrong. Or don't blame me. I'm just giving you a way that you can actually know it. So if you actually see it, apart from that, it will also give you statistics. Okay. So what is the domain size and something like that? How many test cases defined? Number of covered combinations. So it is saying 95 combinations are covered with two-way testing. So you are almost 95% sure that there are 95% defects are already taken care. Okay. This is how it gives you peace of mind and also the coverage. It also gives you the graph here. Okay. Now next, you can save it. You can create an XLS format of it, of those test cases. You can bring in those test cases if you're already written into the tool, and you can check how much coverage is there with the current test cases. And if you want to achieve 100% coverage, what are the test cases you should also add? So it will also tell you delta of your test system and how many test cases or what kind of test cases you should actually write. Okay, so this is what about the ACTS tool with covering arrays or combinatorial testing using covering arrays and using ACTS tool from NIST. That was a demo kind of knowledge sharing. Yes, guys, I'm open for the questions now. Hello, team. Any questions?
No questions as of now.
Have you, any one of you, implemented combinatorial way of testing? This is a very basic thing, very basic demo. If required, I can go into very depth of this particular topic in the later sessions. But this would save you a lot of time, a lot of test cases. You need not write those test cases and actually put a lot of stress on your mind. And you, at the end of the day, you will feel that whether I've written right test cases or not. So these are the combinations that it will actually give you.
Vijay, I want to share one thing. Okay,
Sure.
we have Jira application, correct? There was one team needs to write test case to test Jira. Basically, Jira is a product. It was implemented in a bank. Is a European bank. But the test cases needs to be written to validate the implementation of Jira in the organization.
Yes.
And we didn't use any tool or something. They were struggling. Then I helped them to make that matrix possible. I will tell you a few parameters of it because Jira itself, there are a lot of workflows and we have multiple departments. Every department customize their workflow. That's one parameter.
Yeah.
Second thing is user groups.
Yes.
Third thing is steps, meaning every workflow has various statuses.
Yes.
And fourth parameter is access rights.
Yes.
Every user group has multiple access rights. For example, admin have more access, user have less. So this, we need to validate this.
Yes.
So there was a challenge of forming the matrix. Basically, less test case, more coverage. Then I spent some time. I helped them organize that, and it was well recognized. Yeah, but we did use ACTS kind of tools or something. But yeah.
That will definitely help you. And I know because we have been working into safety domain a lot. So every tool that we are using on the software system, whether it is for testing, whether it is for project management, or even for writing code, all needs to be validated. And there are so many cases that needs to be checked. And if you actually do it manually, you are just doing not a complete job, I would say. So in such cases, we have also taken help of this tools. Like we have, I have at least validated about, say about 100 tools or something like that in my life. If you already know about, there are different type of licenses, if you know guys, what kind of license, there are thousands of types of licenses, if you actually say. So any tool, they have certain limitations based on to licenses. So those are also the factors that needs to be checked upon. So this tool helped us a lot in doing that.
Okay.
So you just need to define a variable. What is a variable? What all parameters or values it can take? Just define it, put it there in the tool. Okay. And similarly, all the variables you just define. And what way of testing? How many? What is the strength? 2, 3, 4, 5. Just mention that the algorithm. Click on a create a system, and then it will create it for you. However, there are two complexities I have not told you. I will not go into it right now. There are certain exceptions. There are certain exceptions in your software. For an example, say your Apple system does not allow, which is a hypothetical example right now, or nowadays it also allows the Windows version is also come, which is compatible with the Apple devices kind of, So for an example, there is an exception like Windows operating system does not go on Apple hardware. This is an exception. If you do not define this exception, unnecessarily your system will define those many test cases. So this exception needs to be handled, and this acts tool also handle that exception. You just need to mention that. So this is not just at the system level. For an example, if you have a component, if you are testing your component for login, in that cases, login, what all the parameters that can happen? A user can enter only 5-digit login name, which can be wrong, which can be right, or italics or something like that. Various combinations it can happen. And the password mismatch, it may happen. So there are various options or various combinations that can happen. You can go for which kind of encryption. So all those test cases that needs to be tested on a given browser or something like that. So you all need to define those variables into acts tool, and it will give you the number of test cases. So it is for systemic level, which can be at the component level, which can be at the smallest possible test case level or variable level. Okay, so you can do all kinds of test cases here on this ACTS tool, and which is proven. As I'm telling you, even NASA kinds of projects are using it. I told you Philips is using it. Some of the projects and Infosys are using it. I know personally. We are using it at Siemens. I used it in some of the companies that I have been coaching on. So it really works. If you need any help on this, please reach me. My name is Vijay. This is the number. You also have my email ID here, and you can reach me, and I will be able to help you.